you're not going to be able to see your daughter in the room. So he brings him back, apparently to a waking state, just like that Richard Hammond was apparently awake after the first sequence in the car. And before he did that, the hypnotist had put his daughter right in front of the father's chair. So he's looking into her stomach. And so he brings him out and he says, Tom, there's your daughter in the room. Can you see her? And Tom's looking around. He can't see her. She's here. No, she's not here. So the hypnotist went behind the daughter and put his hand in the small of her back and said, I'm holding something, Tom. What am I holding? It seemed obvious to him. He said, you're holding a watch. Daughter's here. He said, there's an inscription on the watch. Can you read it? He peered forward. He read the inscription. If I said that to people, most people, they say that's impossible. Impossible. It's ridiculous. But it isn't. Because everything in that room, its prime state, is energetic. Vibrational. If he, Tom, doesn't decode that vibrational information into apparently physical information, holographic information, as I'll come to in a second, then nothing in that room exists in physical form. Now, what the hypnotist has done is programmed his brain not to read his daughter's energy field, vibrational field, into holographic physical reality. So he does it to everything else in the room except his daughter. So to him, his daughter's not in the room because he can't see her at the level of the conscious mind, because she's not entered the level of the conscious mind through the decoding system. Everyone else in the room has not been programmed not to read the daughter so they can see her in physical form. Now imagine again, if you are a few with a vicious agenda for this world, and you know that, and you know how to manipulate that, and the population don't. So this was his daughter, but he never decoded her through the brain into that, so she never became that, so she was never in the room to him. Once you get into these deep levels, the apparently paranormal becomes perfectly logical. We're supposed to live in a solid world. Everything seems solid. Whoa, solid. And bang your head on that, it'll hurt. Why? Because that's the way we're decoding reality. In fact, it's not physical at all. How can anything be physical when the atoms that make up the physical world, scientists tell us, turn out to be empty? As one of them said, if you take the nucleus in the center of an atom to be a 10p piece, or a 10-cent piece, as he said, then the rest of the atom would have to be about the size of a cathedral to match the measurements between the nucleus and the rest of the atom. And yet that makes up this solid world? Of course not. We do, by decoding it to the appearance of solidity. And we do it through a system called holograms, holographic reality. This is a studio where they make holograms. Of course, you can buy them in the shops in a less sophisticated way. For those that haven't come across them, how they make them is they have a laser beam. Part of it goes and hits a photographic plate, pretty much direct. Another part of the laser beam is reflected away across whatever it is they want to photograph, and then deflected back to hit the photographic plate and collide with the other half of the laser beam that's pretty much gone direct. And what this does is create what they call an interference pattern. It's the very same principle as dropping two pebbles in a pond, and as the wave patterns come out and collide, that wave pattern is a wave reflection of where those pebbles dropped, how far between them, how heavy they were, all the rest of it. In the same way, on the photographic print, this looks just like a fingerprint, funnily enough. On the photographic print, this is a holographic print, it's a series of waves. And those waves are a wave representation of the object that has been holographically photographed. Then you take another laser and you fire it at that pattern, and miraculous things happen. Apparently three-dimensional forms appear that the best of them look as solid as you and me. But you can put your hand through them because they're illusory solidity, illusory three-dimensional forms. And it's interesting because when I went to America to speak in January, I was at the airport, and there was this absolute mainstream scientific magazine in Britain called The New Scientist, and on the front page was, "You are a hologram projected from the edge of the universe." And what the article said was so far off the cutting edge it was unbelievable, but at least they're starting to see that this is the way things are moving. Now, when you look at holograms, they have a remarkable characteristic, and that is that every part of the hologram is a smaller part of the whole. So when you get a holographic print and you cut it in four and put the laser on the four pieces, you don't get a quarter of the whole picture, you get a quarter-sized version of the whole picture. Not a quarter part, a quarter version. And this is fundamental to understanding this. Alternative healing methods like reflexology and acupuncture in many of its forms, who have done what? They've found different parts of the body that if you use them and manipulate them in certain ways can affect other parts of the body, like organs. They can treat the heart from the foot, or the liver from the hand, and all this stuff. And acupuncture has points on the ear that relates to all the other parts of the body. And people say, that's impossible. No, it's not. Why? Because the body is a hologram. And therefore, every single part of the body is a smaller version of the whole. And therefore, you can treat the whole from those smaller versions that we are talking about here, like parts of the foot and parts of the ear. I met this doctor in America, Harvey Biggleton, who wrote this book, Holographic Blood, and I looked at inside my own blood through this really powerful microscope, and there's all holographic pictures in it. Everything's holographic. As above, so below. That's what they say, don't they? As above, so below. What does that mean? It means that the universe and us is a hologram. That's why the energy fields of the body mirror the energy fields of the earth. So we are the universe. Even on a physical level, we are the universe because we are a fundamental smaller version of the universe, well, what I call the super hologram. My God, we've come a long way from Charlie Smith and Ethel Jones. That's who we are, even on a physical level. It's a miracle. No such thing as miracles. It's just about the way we decode reality. How can an illusion burn an illusion? It can't unless we think it can, and then it bloody hurts. That's why people go into other levels of consciousness. They can walk through fire and not be burned. Because if they will not decode the burn, they cannot be burned because it's all an illusion. There is no spoon. It is not the spoon that bends. It is only yourself, exactly. So, we can realize that William Blake was right when he said this. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. And that's what we are. And what the conspiracy has done is to persuade us that we're not. So what they're looking for is an incessant centralization of power, which is what's been going on century after century and getting ever faster. And this is what they're looking for. A world government that would dictate to every country. A world central bank that will control world finance. World currency, eventually no cash, no currencies, physical currencies, just electronic money, one world electronic currency. One world army that would impose the will of the world government. A microchip population where children are microchipped at birth as a matter of course. And then at least 4, possibly more, but at least 4 super-state unions under that. The European Union, evolved out of a free trade zone. The American Union, evolved out of another free trade zone, the North American Free Trade Agreement. Pacific Union, Asia and the East, evolved out of APEC, Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. And the African Union, which they already have, which was evolved out of the Organization of African Unity. And the idea is there, the next stage, nation states are to be broken up